once a month, a stranger will stop me out in public when I have Natalie with me, and they will say, "Is that your granddaughter?" And I don't appreciate that. I told my church one time, I said, if you ever hear that I'm in jail, you'll know why. Somebody caught me at the wrong moment and asked, "Is that your granddaughter?" And I did something I shouldn't have done. I did ask Natalie to come today, and I'm glad she could come. She's 8 years old. She's in the 2nd grade at Carrollton Elementary School. About 8.5, 9 years ago, we found out we were expecting a child. And I was 50 years old at the time. My wife was 38. And I wrote this article about that experience. I called it Isaac. Everyone I've told has laughed. I called a friend in Texas who giggled in G-Hall, long distance, for 15 minutes. Friends, family, and acquaintances have all laughed. I'm not sure if they're laughing with me or at me. I guess now I know how Abraham and Sarah felt. They laughed. Read it for yourself, Genesis 18. Quote, "Now Abraham and Sarah were old." So Sarah laughed to herself. Well, they had a boy. They named him Isaac, which means what? Laughter. Yeah. I suppose their friends also laughed. To quote some lines from a poem by Calvin Miller about the friends of Abraham and Sarah, here's what they said to Abraham and Sarah. A baby, they shouted with glee. They rollicked and frolicked hilariously, holding their sides and snapping their knees. They fell on the ground and roared out with joy. Tell us, old Sarah, a girl or a boy? Poor Isaac. How would you like it if your dad was 100 years old? Dad, let's go outside and throw the ball. Okay, son, remove my IV first. Think about it. He can only push the stroller downhill. Well, if you haven't heard by now, Sherry and I are expecting a baby. Happy? Yes. Scared? A little. I spent considerable time reflecting on what it would be like to be an older dad. For example, by the time the child is out of diapers, I'll be in them. If it's a girl, I dread the father-daughter dance. She'll be 10, I'll be 60. Better be a slow dance. And what will the child's first words be after high school graduation? Mom, can we go see Dad? And then the drive to the nursing home. Truthfully, it's been a wonderful joy for us to have a child late in life. There are lots of pluses to that. It's a lot of fun. People say it keeps you young, and it really does in some ways. In some ways not. But, for example, do you know who Taylor Swift is? I do, I promise you. She's a very popular singer-songwriter for kids. I know all about her. Hannah Montana, I know all about Hannah Montana. SpongeBob SquarePants, a lot of things I would not know about otherwise that I know a lot about. It does keep you up with what's going on with kids. It keeps you active in their lives. And so it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it very much. Now, as she got a little bit older, when she was about 5 months, I wrote this. It's called Reflections at 3 a.m. We have a 5-month-old daughter who thinks that 3 a.m. is playtime. I'm hoping that she grows out of it before the teenage years. Things are quiet, I suppose, around town in most homes at this unholy hour. Being awake at such a time affords ample time for reflection. So it's Tuesday night, 3 a.m. You're sleeping, I'm not. I'm reflecting. What I'm thinking about is how grateful I am that some folk are awake at this hour to keep our world working and safe. Policemen, firemen, hospital workers, ER doctors, and Waffle House employees. They provide services and benefits that we sometimes take for granted because we are, well, asleep and oblivious to all that they do. Every night while you sleep, remember others like firemen, policemen, and doctors who are just a phone call away. Just as we are oblivious to all that they do for us, I could not help but reflect on how oblivious Natalie is to all that I do for her. Perhaps she will never appreciate all this until she has her own child and bleary-eyed tries to rock her to sleep. Likewise, we never know or appreciate all that our Heavenly Father does for us. In a world with so much suffering, I often hear people ask the question, why doesn't God do more to alleviate the problems? It's a good question. Maybe, just maybe, God does more than we ever know. We don't know how much suffering we might have come our way if God had not intervened. Likewise, Natalie doesn't know, will not ever know, how much I've done to nurture, love, and protect her. If you've had children, you understand what I'm talking about. You think about the many times they almost bumped their noggin, but you intervened. They almost stepped off a step they would have fallen, but you grabbed them. We've all done that. I told this story about our son when he's now 20. When he was 6 months old, we lived in Texas. My wife was in a recliner holding our little 6-month-old. I was about 6 or 8 feet away. And somehow he just lunged out of her hands. And I saw it happening. I dove parallel to the ground, and I caught him. It was one of the greatest catches of all time. It would have made ESPN highlights. I caught him before he hit the floor. I didn't think about, is he going to hurt me? You would have done the same thing for your kids. And I rescued him. He doesn't know that. He will never know it. And so if you apply this to a spiritual aspect, it could be. I'm just saying it could be. So many times in your life and my life, something bad could have happened to us, but somehow God intervened on our behalf, and we just don't know it. So, being a parent gives you ample time to reflect, even at 3 a.m., on some really important things in life. So as she grew older, I wrote a little article called Baby Talk. It's lots of fun watching children grow up. Being an older dad, I'm really enjoying it the second time around. I seem to be less stressed, and I'm paying attention to the little things that she does. Natalie is now learning lots of new words. Ball, more, and uh-oh are some of her favorites. I'm trying, but to no avail, to teach her to say scholarship. Every child early on, I suppose, learns to say uh-oh. It's part of the parent's vocabulary, and children quickly pick up on the fact that uh-oh indicates something unexpected has happened. However, in Natalie's case, she will intentionally drop a toy, or as she did one day, throw down her doll, and then say, uh-oh. At some point in her young life, I will try to teach her the difference between deliberate acts and accidents. Life is full of both. We humans bear the responsibility for our choices. I don't deny the role of genetics, nature, in the shaping of our lives, and in fact, I believe that some of who we are is programmed from birth. I also believe that, however, that we must bear ultimate responsibility for our choices and how we use or don't use our gifts and talents we've inherited since birth. I also believe that we make our own moral and ethical choices, though I acknowledge, again, that our environment shapes us, nurture, to some degree, and some have, from birth, tendencies towards certain behaviors, such as, say, alcohol abuse.